Good evening, I'm Ces Orenia Drilon.
I'm Police.
Hindi ito ang panahon para magtaas ng pamasahe. Kaya inutos ko sa DOTR na suspindihin muna ang fare hike.
Pero sana itindihin po nila, these are difficult times. Kita naman po nila yung effort ng ating government. Pero lahat ng pwedeng ibigay sa stakeholders sa transport sector.
Laban o bawi. Na nasa gitna tayo ng krisis, wala silang na ginawa na tulong dito sa ating pampublikong transportasyon. Dahil yung ayuda na sinasabi nila ay napakabagal din. Wala na po talaga tayong aasahan dito sa fare increase.
The Marcos administration takes back the fare hike supposed to be implemented tomorrow, March 19. While commuters heave a sigh of relief, transport groups are letting out one long sigh. After all, they had hoped for some breathing room from fuel price surges. The president's sister, meantime, is as disappointed. Mobile Journal Julie Baisa has tonight's big story.
Sa aking palagay, dahil nga may problema pa rin tayo dahil sa gera sa Middle East, ay sabi ko siguro hindi ito ang panahon para magtaas ng pamasahe para sa ating mga kababayan. Kaya inutos ko sa DOTR na suspindihin muna ang fare hike at i-defer muna natin yan. Kailangan patuloy ang ating pag-alalay sa ating mga commuter, sa lahat ng mga ating manggagawa, mga estudyante, lahat ng gumagamit ng ating transport system.
This announcement from President Bongbong Marcos came on the eve of the scheduled implementation of the fare hike. The increases cover fares for jeepneys, city buses, airport taxis, and Transport Network Vehicle Services or TNVS. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board had earlier given the go signal to raise fares for the provincial buses as a means to help transport stave off the impact of massive oil price hikes. The president says there are other ways to help the sector without commuters having to pay the price.
Huwag po mag-alala ang ating mga transport workers dahil mamadaliin po namin, dadagdagan po namin ang suporta sa inyo para naman ay hindi kayo masyadong mahirapan. Ang DOTR ay pinutusan ko na sisimula na ang libreng sakay sa buong Pilipinas. At pwede po ninyong gamitin na muna yan para pangbawas gastos sa pang-araw-araw.
Both motorists and the commuting public may also find some relief from trains and expressways.
Sa MRT at LRT ay magdidiskwento po tayo doon sa pamasahe. Bukod pa doon, sa mga toll road ay meron din tayong inutos na diskwento para mas maliit na ngayon ang bayad ng bayan sa paggamit ng mga toll road.
Realizing that the fare hike suspension is another letdown for the public transportation sector, LTFRB Chair Vigor Mendoza could only ask for understanding and more patience.
Pero sana itindihin po nila, these are difficult times. These are not simple, ordinary times. At kita naman po nila yung effort ng ating government. It may not be enough, no? Pero lahat ng pwedeng ibigay sa stakeholders sa transport sector, yung mananakay nga, wala nga ayuda at subsidiyan. We tried our best to help them na matawid natin itong problema ito. So adding this rally, sana gawin nilang tahimik, peaceful, at wag lang nila guluhin yung ibang mananakay sa daan at yung ibang traffic flow, sana tuloy-tuloy lang.
Even before the fare hike was suspended, Transport Group Manibela was already opposed to it. The 1 peso provisional increase in traditional jeepney fares is a pittance, according to the coalition. Manibela Chair Marvel Buena said President Marcos taking back the fare hike announcement only shows how it really sees the plight of the already reeling transport sector.
Hindi man lang ata pinag-isipan itong kanyang mga desisyon na laban o bawi. Nakita niya na nasa gitna tayo ng krisis, wala silang na ginawa na tulong dito sa ating pampublikong transportasyon. Dahil yung ayuda na sinasabi nila ay napakabagal din. At itong limos na ibinigay sa atin, ibinawi pa, nag-alinlangan ng ating Pangulo. O wala na po talaga tayong asahan dito, pero dito sa fare increase.
Even the president's sister, Senator Amy Marcos, is underscoring the confusion. She asked, why backtrack on the fare hike or the suspension of the fuel excise tax? On Wednesday morning, hours before he suspended the fare increases, President Marcos was asked if he intends to use emergency powers to cut levies. He answered this way.
Oh, that depends. Marami, it's a very complicated calculation. We will see. Depends on the trends. We have to watch the trends of on oil prices. We just have to look. It's very hard to say because it's all speculation. We don't know how long this will last for. We don't know what the effects are. We don't know what will happen in the Straits of Hormuz. When the situation calls for it, then we will see by when to exercise that power and how much by.
Nakakalito. Ano ba talaga? Wala pa kayong GC? Nakakalito. Ginulo ninyo kami hanggang gabi kagabi na tapusin na yung excise tax authorization sa presidente. Pagkatapos sasabihin naman ng ating finance secretary na hindi pa kailangan yung excise tax na yan. GC, please, hilong-hilo na kami.
Kapatid Mobile Journal Julie Baiza, we are One News.
The fare hike for tomorrow might have been suspended, but the transport strike isn't. And joining us tonight from two transport groups, Mar Valbuena, Chairman of Manibela, and Modi Floranda, National President of Piston. Modi, unahin ko na muna kayo, tuloy po ba ang tigil pasada?
Magandang gabi po sa inyo at siyempre sa ating mga taga-subaybay. Bukas ay tuloy na po ang nationwide na transport strike laban dito sa patuloy na pagtaas ng presyo ng petrolyo.
Nangako naman po ang gobyerno na kayo na ang susunod na tatanggap ng ayuda.
Ang tingin po natin ay hindi siya mariresolve doon sa pinagyayabang ng gobyerno na 5,000 na ibibigay nila sa mga pampublikong transportasyon, sapagkat ito ay lalamunin lamang ng patuloy na pagtaas ng presyo ng petrolyo na kung saan ay halos umaabot na kapag umabot po ito ng 120 per liter ay halos 3,600 pesos kada araw yung aming gagastusin sa aming mga biyahe ng 12 to 18 hours. Kahit anong saysay nitong 5,000 piso na pinangangako ng gobyerno, nagagastusin lamang sa loob po ng halos 2 araw. Kaya ang sinasabi nga natin, kung talagang seryoso ang gobyerno na tulungan ang hindi lamang ang transport sector, dapat tanggalin ng gobyerno yung mataas na buwis sa produktong petrolyo sapagkat talagang sa ilalim ng excise tax ay meron po yan 6 pesos per liter. Sa ilalim po ng VAT ngayon ay almost nasa 11 pesos na. Kaya pagtingnan po natin ay halos 16 pesos per liter ang nakapatong sa ilalim po ng mga buwis na ito.
Puntahan naman natin si Mar. Kayo ba ay sasama sa tigil pasada?
Hindi po kami makakalahok bukas, Ma'am Ses. Pero nakikiisa tayo na yung gagawing strike bukas ay nakikisimpatya tayo. Pero sa tingin kasi namin ay mas lalong malaking kabawasan ito sa ngayon kung hindi namin na pagsisikapang makaipon muna dahil hindi natin alam kung gaano kahaba itong giyera na ito. At kung hindi mangyayari yung pag-suspend sa excise tax, pagbibigay nitong fuel subsidy at itong per increase nga na binawi, ito po yung magiging basihan natin ng pagkasa ng mas malaki pa pong transport strike.
So, ibig sabihin, binibigyan nyo pa ng konting pag-iintindi ang pamahalaan?
Ma'am Ses, nakakatawa, no? Kahit walang sense of urgency itong ating gobyerno, kahit papano nagbibigay pa tayo sa kanila ng konting palugit man lang na alam natin maraming incompetent na nakaupo o inupo dito sa gobyerno, pero ganun pa man ay binibigyan natin ng pagkakataon na sana ay masolusyonan itong mga problema, itong mga hinaing. At kapag talagang pigang-piga na, Ma'am Ses, siguro that's the time na magkasama na kami ni Kamodi.
Tanong lang, no, una na sa inyo, Mar, kasi last week ang sabi mo kung magbibigay sila ng ayuda, nasa 8.5 ang hinihingi ninyo sana given today's prices, pero ang inanunsyo nga nung unang tranche no, na ibibigay, which is yung AIC sa DSWD, magkano po yung makukuha nyo? Kasi 5,000 po nakuha ng mga tricycle drivers. And is it enough or how much is still kulang, kung kulang man yung amount?
Opo, nakakatawa no na yung ibibigay sa atin ay kapareho lamang nitong ibinigay na ayuda sa mga tricycle. Napakalaki ng konsumo namin kung ikumpara dun sa tricycle, pero yung ibibigay po na subsidy ay kaparehas lamang nitong mga tricycle. Talaga po ba ang pinag-aaralan po nila itong ibinibigay nilang subsidy sa atin at itong solusyon na sinasabi nila? Kasi napakabigat ng konsumo ng mga jeepney, ng UB Express, ng TNBS, pero pinagpapareho po nila. Kung titignan po natin, napakalayo po ng konsumo namin na 30 liters per day. At sana ho ay tama yung sabi ninyo, kung first tranche pa lang po ito, sana may second tranche, pero sana hindi naman po 5,000 ang ibigay sa mga jeepney drivers at mga operators.
Tanong ko lang si Kamodi, hindi ba kayo nagdadamdam dito sa Manibela na hindi kayo hindi naki-action sa inyo o hindi makiki-action sa inyo?
Sa bahagi po namin ay inirerespeto po namin ang iba't ibang grupo na kung hindi man sila makikisabay ay ginagalang po namin yung kanilang mga desisyon. Ang isang pinakaano lang dito, ang usapin ng laban sa presyo po ng petrolyo ay laban ito ng buong sektor ng transportasyon sapagkat talagang tayo yung isa sa tinatamaan at siyempre yung ating mga mamamayan na kung saan ay talagang kulang at kulang na yung mga sahod ng ating mga manggagawa na kung dito nga sa National Capital Region ay halos sa 690 lamang ang sahod ng ating mga manggagawa at di hamak na mas mababa ang sahod ng ating mga manggagawa sa labas ng National Capital Region. Magkano na lamang ang naiuwi ng ating mga driver na halos umaabot na lamang ng 200 to 300 pesos yung kanilang naiuwi dahil sa ubod ng mahal ng presyo po ng petrolyo. Inulit ko po, nirerespeto ko po yung aming mga kasama sa iba't ibang sektor ng transportasyon.
Pero Kamodi, pwedeng mahingi din po namin yung reaksyon nyo dun sa suspension ng fare hike mula mismo kay Pangulong Marcos at bukod dun sa suspension, ano po din yung naging reaksyon nyo dun sa nilabas ng LTFRB na ₱1 lamang yung increase sa fare doon sa mga traditional jeepneys?
Ang tawag ko po dyan ay candy, dahil yung halaga ng piso ay halaga ng isang candy, na kung saan ay isang candy lamang ang ibinigay nga sa mga driver ay kara-karaka ibinawi ng Pangulo. Pero yung mga malalaking kumpanya ng langis, lechon ang binibigay ng ating Pangulo. Kung sino yung mga mayayaman, ay siya pa yung binibigyan ng lechon. Kaya ibig sabihin yan, halimbawa yung Shell, yung Petron, magkano kinita ng Petron sa loob lamang ng 2025? Almost 15 billion po ang kanilang kinita. Yung piso na hinihingi ng mga ating mga driver para hindi pa sa usapin na para gumanda ang kanilang buhay, kundi para maibsan yung patuloy na pagliit ng kita. Pero ito'y binawi, karakaraka binawi ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos. Pagpapakita lamang na kailangan natin pag-aralan, ang administrasyon ba, saan ba talaga ito nagsisilbi? Nagsisilbi ba talaga ito sa interes ng mga mamamayan? O nagsisilbi lamang sa interes ng malalaking mga negosyante na katulad ng sila at Catholic Petron at iba pang mga dayuhan dito sa ating bansa.
Sir Mar, para sa inyong tansya, magkano po ba dapat ang maging increase? Kasi balancing act din po yan, dahil maraming mga commuters ang aaray din sa taas pamasahe.
Opo, sagutin ko lang po muna si Ma'am Ses. Baka ngayon magdamdam na si Kamodi. pero ganun pa man, kaibigan po kami ni Kamodi, pero pareho kaming walang number sa isa't isa. Yun lamang po. Doon po sa tanong po ninyo ay kung magkano siguro ho, doon sa itinaas talaga na almost 100% o mahigit 100% pa ang itinaas nito sa ibang mga gasolinahan. Isipin ninyo, galing po tayo sa 55 pesos to 58 pesos bago magkaroon ng gyera at bago ipinail yung petition para sa fare increase
nagbabase pa po ito doon sa 55 to 58 pesos po na halaga ng petrolyo. Kung susumahin natin, dapat 20 pesos na nga po ang pamasahe dahil sa laki ng itinaas nito. Pero bilang konsiderasyon ay sabi nga natin yung 2 piso hanggang 5 piso ay makakasapat na po sana. At malaking bagay na po sana ito. Kung kukumputin niya po yung piso na ibinigay sa atin, ladies, Kamodi, sa 16 na pasahero natin, sa maghapon po, kung yun ay magpupuno kami, aabutin po ng 7 hanggang 8 trips bago po kami makaipon ng pambili ng 1 litrong krudo. Kaya po tinawag namin itong panlilimos sa gobyerno. At itatama ko lang din ho ulit, Kamodi, baka matagal ka nang di bumibili ng candy, 3 na po ang 5 piso ngayon. Wala na pong pisong candy. Kaya yung pisong bibigay ko sa anak ko, ibabato lang po sa akin. So sana po, imbis na sa ating Pangulo, sa ating mahal na Pangulo, imbis na yung fare increase ang isuspend, dapat po yung excise tax, yung value added tax, yung oil deregulation law, ang dapat isuspend. Kung talagang nag-iisip po ang ating pamahalaan at ang mga nakapaligid sa ating Pangulo, mali po yung pag-suspend ng fare increase. Although alam natin na nahihirapan ng taong bayan, pero po sana yung mas nagpapabigat doon sa plight ng ating mga kababayan ngayon, lalo na sa mga tsuper, yun po dapat ang sinuspend ng ating Pangulo.
Yun na nga marahil dahil ito ay naaprubahan na ng Kongreso at Senado, ay maisa sa katuparan na yan. Kaya marahil sinuspinde. Pero kung tanggalin na nga, kailangan pa rin ng fair increase sa tansya ninyo.
Ma'am Ses, siguro kailangan pa rin. Hindi po dahil gusto namin kumita ng malaki. Baryang-barya na po ito. Buti po kung may maiwi pa kami. Tignan po natin doon sa kung papaano tumaas at gaano din kabilis tumaas yung produktong petrolyo. Yun po sana ang pag-aralan po ng ating gobyerno. 100%, more than 100% po ang itinaas ng presyo. Sana doon po natin tignan. Kung 6 pesos po ang mawawala doon sa kada litro, kung ibibigay po ng buo, talagang isususpend yung implementation ng excise tax, malaking bagay na rin po ito. Pero sana, pang break even lang po namin ito, pero sana may maiuwi po yung ating sektor. Hindi lamang po ng ating mga driver sa jeepney, UB Express at TNBS, pati po sana sa mga riders din.
Computin nga natin, magkano ba ang full tank ng jeep ngayon? Kung i-full tank mo sa presyo ngayon, magkano ba yun?
Nasa 3,000 na, Ma'am Ses, na mahigit.
3,000. So,
Kung sa 30 liters po ito na ang maximum po kasi ay 35 to 40 liters, depende po sa laki. Pero hindi po kami basta nakakapagpa-full tank ng ganun-ganun na lamang. Kailangan pong kitain muna namin ito, Ma'am Ses.
Mga sir, no, itong tanong, it goes out to both of you. Sa mga grupo nyo ba, both Manibela and Piston, ilan po ba yung qualified doon na maging provider doon sa libreng sakay program ng gobyerno? Kasi sabi nila, yung isang measure daw, no, para hindi daw mawalan ng trabaho at kita ang ating mga tsuper, i-hire daw niya yung mga qualified. Pero hindi ko lang sure kung sa bus lang ba yun or kasama rin po ba yung mga jeep. Sige, go ahead.
Tipong walang malinaw kung sino yung kanilang i-hire doon sa sinasabi nilang libreng sakay. Pero yung ating mga naging karanasan ay ginagamit dito ng gobyerno ay yung mga bus at saka yung mga minibus. Yun ang kanilang pangunahin na tinutulungan sapagkat alam naman natin na yung mga unang mga nag-corporation ng mga nakoperatiba sa ngayon ay talagang nababaon na sa mga utang. Kaya tingin natin ito yung muling gagamitin ng gobyerno. Kung meron man na mga jeep na ginagamit sa pinanlibreng sakay, ay tandaan po natin ito ay hindi libre sapagkat ang binabayad po rito ng gobyerno ay galing po sa buwis ng ating mga mamamayan, galing po sa buwis ng mga driver at mga operator. Kaya sa atin ay ang usapin ng libreng sakay, oo, makakatulong, pero hindi siya makakaresolba sa kasalukuyang kalagayan, hindi lamang ng mga driver at mga operator, kundi mismo ng ating mga commuter. Sapagkat yung karanasan po natin sa EDSA, no, yung karanasan natin dyan sa EDSA, sa carousel, dati libre yan, Pero ngayon po ay nagbabayad na yung ating mga pasahero.
So, ulitin ko lang po. Oo, Sir Mar and Camody, nabanggit nyo kanina, ang take-home pay na lang ng mga driver ngayon ay nasa 200 to 300 pesos. Sa bilang nyo po, ilang mga driver na po ba ang napilitang tumigil sa pamamasada dahil sa taas ng presyo ng petrolyo?
Sige, go ahead po.
Mar. Kamar muna, tapos si Karody.
Sa amin po, ang ginawa po namin ay alternate po ang biyahe, lalo na po kung nasa loob po ito ng terminal, para hindi po nag-aagawan sa pasahero at hindi po kami naglulustay lang ng pera sa pagbili ng krudo na paikot-ikot lamang. So kung sasabihin natin, kung may nagtigil pasada po o tumigil na sa pamamasada, ito po ay alternate para kahit papaano may kitain pa rin po. Pero meron talagang iba, siguro ho, nasa mga 10% ho, o kulang 10% na po ang tumigil. Gusto ko lang din po mag-comment dito sa libre sakay o doon sa service contracting. Paano po kung halimbawa doon sa isang ruta, merong hindi maisasama at kalahati lang doon ang mabibigyan ng kontrata ng libreng sakay? Di wala na pong sasakay doon sa kalahati kasi yung kabila ho na hindi mapapasama doon sa service contracting, kailangan niyang maningil ng pamasahe para may pang diesel siya at may kitain din siya. So dapat tignan po ito ng ating pamahalaan, ang sinasabi ng ating Pangulo, buong Pilipinas mabibigyan. Magdasal po tayo kung totoo po na mangyayari yan kasi ho, kung hindi po at kalahati lang ang mabibigyan, kawawa naman po yung kakompetensya doon sa ruta na hindi po mabibigyan ng service contracting o libreng sakay na programa.
Okay, Kamody, kayo naman po.
Sa atin ay may malino na tayong karanasan sa sabi po ng service contracting na ito talaga ay pinipili nila kung sino yung mga nagkorpo, sino yung nagkorporasyon, nagkopartiba, mas yun yung kanilang pinipili na bigyan ng service contracting. Yung pong ating mga traditional of jeepney sa ngayon, ay tingin natin ay meron mang makasama pero hindi sa buo na doon sa service contracting. Totoo, yung sinasabi ni Kamar na halimbawa sa isang ruta, merong 100 unit na tumatakbo sa isang ruta. Paano kung 20 lamang yung ipapanood nila sa service contracting? Paano po yung 80? Kung meron kang 50 sa isang ruta na 20 ang bibigyan lamang na service contracting, paano po yung 30? Paano kikitain, paano din ang kanilang pamilya. Kaya na mahalaga tayo po ay ang tingin natin ay dapat ito ay masusing pag-aralan pa rin ng gobyerno, yung usapin ng service contracting sapagkat nagiging malaking yung mga naging karanasan noon ay naging malaking korupsyon sa usapin po ng service contracting. Maraming pumasok sa service contracting na hanggang sa ngayon ay hindi nababayaran ng gobyerno.
Okay. Hindi nyo po nasagot ang tanong ni Pawi kung ilan na yung hindi na namamasada at naghanap na lang marahil ng ibang pagkakakitaan sa hanay ng inyong
Sa piston,
organisasyon.
Sa piston naman.
Sa ngayon po ay totoo yung sinasabi ni Kamara, nagkakaroon ng internet o pagpapalitan na may biyahe siya ngayong umaga, yung iba naman ay sa hapon, or may biyahe siya ngayong maghapon, bukas naman ay hindi sa bibiyahe. Yung nagkakaroon namang ng adjustment yung ating mga association para sabay-sabay para parehong mabuhay sa ganitong kalagayan. At yung iba naman ay yung iba ay bumibiyahe pero nagbabawas po ng oras. Kung dati ay 12 to 18 hours yung kanilang pamamasada, ginagawa po nilang 16 hours na lang yung kanilang pamamasada.
Meron din po ba, Kamody, very quick lang, meron din bang tumigil ng mamasada totally sa piston?
Meron po, meron po tayong mga ilang nagde-decide naman yan na yung operator. Lalo na kung nagsasuffer din yung mga boundary ng ating mga operator. Tingin din ng operator ay hindi na rin sila kumikita kumikita yung kanilang mga jeep. Sila mismo yung nagpapahinto sa ating mga driver.
Ang mga operator po ba, Kamody, willing i-adjust yung boundary para naman may kikitain pa rin yung mga driver nila?
Yung karasan po natin ay yung mga operator nagbabawas. Halimbawa, yung mga biyaheng Antipulo-Cubao na dati po ang boundary niya ay 1,200, ngayon po ay 1,000 na lamang. yung pong Project 3 na biyaheng Vito Cruz na dating 900, ngayon po ay 700, na binabawasan po ng ating mga operator dahil nga doon sa para kahit pa paano meron pa rin maiuwi yung ating mga driver.
Ano pong panghuli na lamang po, ano pong abiso ninyo sa mga commuters naman na walang masasakyan bukas?
Una, ito pong magaganap na transport strike sa buong bansa ay hindi lamang ito laban ng ating mga driver at mga operator, kundi dito ay kasama natin ang mga mamamayan sapagkat yung epekto po ng patuloy na pagtaas ng presyo ng petrolyo. Kaya kami po ay nananawagan sa ating mga commuters, sa ating mga mamamayan, na samahan po nyo mga driver at mga operator. Ipanawagan po natin kaya Bongbong Marcos na ibasura ang old regulation law, tanggalin ang excise tax sa langis at ang ibat sa langis. At kakibat niyan, yung panawagan natin na ipatupad ang nakabubuhay na sahod na 1,200 pesos kada araw sa lahat ng mga manggagawa sa buong bansa.
Marami pong salamat sa inyong panahon, Mar Valbuena ng Manibela at Camody Floranda ng Piston.
And here's an update on the proposed emergency powers for President Bongbong Marcos. The lower house has adopted the Senate's version of the bill that will permit the chief executive to cut the fuel excise tax. Under Senate Bill 1982, the president can temporarily reduce pump prices between 5 and 10 pesos per liter. This is based on rates in the train law, which earlier set excise taxes on fuel. One critical safeguard in the Senate version is that the levy reductions automatically revert if the average price of Dubai crude falls below $80 per barrel. It likewise limits the presidential power to a period of 3 months, unlike the House's proposed timeline of 6 months.
By adopting the Senate version, the lower chamber does not need to convene the bicameral conference committee, which significantly expedites the process. As Senate President Tito Sotto puts it, the measure is automatically enrolled, and a copy of which will be sent to Malacanang. From there, only the president's signature is needed, and anytime Marcos can trigger his very own emergency powers.
This is a big story on One News, and still ahead, no stopping the public hearing of Vice President Sara Duterte next week. A House panel says there's sufficient grounds to proceed with the VP's impeachment complaints. The details after the break. Stay tuned. The big story is back with cash payouts to drivers reeling from massive oil price increases. There was still some confusion on day 2 of the DSWD's assistance distribution. That's because owner-operators of tricycles queued up even after the Social Welfare Department announced that only drivers are eligible for aid. Proxies have also been barred from claiming the 5,000 peso payout. There were also complaints of processing fee charges.
Meron pa pong ibang local government unit, may mga stamp pa raw na ibinibigay. Kaya po nakarating naman po yan sa ating Secretary Gatchalian at nilinaw niya po sa kanyang blog na wala pong ibang kailangan kundi yun lang pong lisensya at nakalista po sila doon po sa mga bibigyan ng payouts. Kaya nga po sabi ko, patuba naman yan, pagkakapirahan na naman.
Next week, it's the turn of other transport workers to receive 5,000 pesos from the DSWD. After tricycle drivers, aid will be handed out to jeepney and TNVS drivers and motorcycle, taxi, and delivery riders. After Holy Week, the payout will kick off in the provinces.
Wala naman kaming nakikitang delay. Sa amin lang talaga, yung pondo nandyan na, lilikumin na namin yung malistahan. Tinatapos lang talaga namin yung NCR kasi sila nga tulad na sabi ko, 139,000 sila. Kaya kailangan na tutukan lahat ng super na nangangailangan ng tulong, walang maiwanan. Tutulungan at tutulungan ho kayo. Antabayan ninyo.
And speaking of cash assistance, Ibon Foundation is pushing for aid to local producers. Let's bring in economist and Ibon Foundation Executive Director, Sunny Africa. Welcome back to The Big Story, Sunny.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for inviting me.
First of all, let's just talk about the subsidy being given out to tricycle drivers and soon to jeepney and other transport workers. Is that enough? Is that the 5 peso assistance enough?
The 5,000 peso assistance definitely isn't enough. If you look at just the impact of the, I think, 44 peso increase in diesel since the start of the problem, that's already a 1,300 more or less peso increase every day just in the fuel costs of the average jeepney driver consumes 30 liters. So the 5,000, of course, every little bit helps, but it's really much too small for the scale of the problem jeepney drivers are facing, but also the amounts they're giving out. It's so weird. I remember the last official figure I saw was they'd be helping about 360,000 transport workers. There are about 2.2 million transport workers. So if they're only going to be giving 360,000 transport workers, that leaves about 1.7, 1.8 million without aid. And if they're only going to be giving 5,000 compared to what, for instance, jeepney drivers need, it seems like it seems so tokenistic that it's crazy. And there's this weird statement from the president. I hope he was misquoted. He said things are normal. That's just so weird. That is just so peculiar.
But what kind of assistance can be given? The government has only enough so much funds. How do you propose assistance be given out?
Well, at the very least right now, because of the flood control projects being canceled and all the corruption controversies, there was a little bit bump up in terms of the support for the AIX to about 64 billion, and a little bump in the TUPAD to about 22 billion. I think all in all, it's about a 15, 20 billion increase from last year. So at the very least, use that a lot, use that amount right now, give it to all those in need, especially transport groups. But I think this is where the problem lies. I'm kind of trying to make sense of why the government said that things are normal. The easiest way to justify not doing anything is to say that nothing needs to be done. Now, the problem is really bad. We have to start from the premise that the year ended with almost 18 million poor and borderline Filipinos. It's about 14.3 million poor Filipinos, about 3.4 million borderline Filipinos. If that is your starting point, the government has to realize the crumbs it's giving right now is not going to be enough. Where can it get the funds? First wave of funds can be had from the increase in aid because of the cancellation of flood control projects. Second wave of funds can come from, I think it's about time to sort of crack down on pork barrel projects beyond flood control. There are other infrastructure projects and road projects that can be cut as well. You can have lawmakers volunteer a 20% cut in their hard infrastructure projects, divert that to social services. How can that be done? I think declaring a state of national emergency creates a lot of legal room to maneuver in terms of mobilizing calamity funds, contingency funds, realigning funds. But ultimately, the government can actually pass a supplemental budget, giving the amounts needed. But this is the key point: mobilizing new revenue sources. And it's so deja vu for us when even first proposed a wealth tax in 2020, when the COVID crisis first exploded. We already at that time estimated just targeting 3,000 billionaires right now with about 8.2 trillion pesos, charging a 1-3% tax on wealth over 1-3 billion pesos. That can generate 500 to 600 billion pesos in 1 year.
Tax
so
the billionaires.
If that was done,
how about
if that was done before,
a reduction
that's
in
a slush
pay?
fund for
Sorry to
aid.
interrupt. A reduction in pay of congressmen, senators. Why are you laughing? Why not?
I don't know. It's just so weird to think that they'd be volunteering something like that. I think.
But the situation calls for it, right? I mean,
Or they might be
if
the
jeepney
billionaires.
drivers are making
So
only
sorry.
200 pesos a day, saan aabot yun?
Yeah. No, I think that's useful. I think that in terms of symbolism, that would be great. Right now, we actually do have. So I'm so sorry for laughing. I apologize for that. It's just weird to think that our representatives suddenly have a sort of an epiphany and sort of have this moral compass.
Why
about
not?
that. I think that might help. our last count from the SALN ends is that the poorest congressman has 19 million pesos in wealth. The richest has about 54 billion. If he doesn't pay his 24 billion in fines. So I think that's a start, cutting their pay. But again, we need institutionalized social protection support. And that's the whole point about, we have a tax system that is actually not just becoming more progressive, it's actually becoming more regressive. The last two administrations cut taxes on the rich, cut taxes on large corporations, while increasing consumption taxes on the poor and middle class. So that has to be averted, not just to generate revenue, but also the tax burden on poor and middle class Filipinos. So I think that is a big source of funds that the government, by its very narrow-minded thinking of protecting wealth, protecting income, making up these excuses that, oh, if you give corporations tax cuts, they're going to invest. They're not investing. That's part of the reason why the economy is slowing, is because the corporations benefit from the create more law. They're pocketing the profits without actually investing. So, rather than sort of have so much idle profits in large corporations, rather than having so much idle wealth in 3,000 billionaires, let's mobilize a bit of it, give some back to the economy that made them wealthy to begin with.
All right, so you agree with Winnie Monsod. She also proposed that wealth tax on the billionaires. But I wanted to get you and Ibon's stance on removing the fuel excise taxes and or VAT on fuel products. I am guessing you are not in favor of that because it will remove social safety nets and stand to benefit those who are a bit more well off.
Not really, because I think that removing the excise tax and the VAT on oil taxes is a quick way to give support to a lot of poor and middle-class families. We disagree with the argument that, you can't do that because you're also helping, a lot of non-poor Filipinos. Things are bad right now. I think the middle class needs whatever relief they can get, and because the middle class do actually spend more on oil products, they will be benefiting. By our last computation, middle-class families, it's not much, but it's something. Middle-class families from suspended excise tax might get anywhere from 500 to maybe 600 pesos more in their pockets per month. Poor families might get anywhere from 250 to 300 pesos. That's not much, but it's something.
Did
But
you
the
say
point
even
is,
the VAT? But is that not? I don't think VAT is going to be suspended.
No. Yeah. They only talked
excise.
about the excise tax, and then si President Marcos pa nga said kanina, well, it depends. So parang, actually, I think I fully support the position of Makabayan Bloc when they didn't vote for it, because it was so weird. The government's acting as if there's not a problem. I think they are like, they're like digging their heels saying that things are a normal thing. The excise tax law actually didn't exhort the president to suspend excise tax. It said the president may, upon the recommendation of blah, 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 upon certain conditions, like 2 layers. Upon certain conditions, and even upon those conditions, he can only may, not even shall. So it's a very sort of a put on emergency powers for a show of action. So procedurally, I think that's a problem. There's a problem. But substantively, we do support taking away the oil excise tax. We also support taking away the oil VAT tax, if only to give much needed relief, not just for poor Filipinos, but even middle-class Filipinos. And we're not going to take it against the few rich who may get 1,000 pesos more in their pockets. Okay, they don't deserve it, but rather than sort of
No, it will
seriously,
encourage
kasi
kasi.
talk about targeting.
It will encourage more consumption, or
They
not.
promise they won't. The rich don't care about spending 1,000 pesos more for gasoline or
Yun na
2,000
nga.
pesos more. They're gonna complain about traffic. They're not gonna be suddenly spending more time on the road. So we cannot. I know textbooks say that a lot. Na if you reduce taxes, people will consume more. In all honesty, kayo, if you had cheaper gasoline by 10 pesos, you're gonna be suddenly going to Ilocos Norte or driving to Pagudpod or driving to Mindanao. You won't naman eh. So may natural level of use. There's a natural income inelasticity to those products, which is why the government loves charging oil products, because no matter how painful it is, they know people use oil on a narrow margin. So that's the evil thing about it, and that's what they're exploiting to generate resources. But no, bottom line, we support takeout oil excise taxes, we support takeout oil VAT, but the government has to rethink about mobilizing new revenue sources. We support the billionaire wealth tax. We support a reversion to the old corporate income tax that can generate easily 500 to 750 billion pesos a year just doing those two things for all the things that need to be done.
What about yung urong-sulong ni Presidente na binawi yung 1 peso fare hike?
Well, apparently may political calculation siya na he knows things aren't normal. He knows na kung magdagdag ng 1 peso ngayon, and that's from the old fare petition kasi. There are new rounds of petitions much higher because of the problem right now. So I think the president calculated politically, well, this couple of weeks naman, I have a kunwari support for transport groups, 5,000 for 139 tricycle drivers. So he's sort of calculating, magreklamo sila, but masabi ko naman, I'm giving some support. Pero he's mitigating the more certain outrage from people who'll be spending a bit more for the transportation.
Sonny,
Yeah,
your thoughts on the targeted subsidies. Are we doing it right? Or as you were alluding to just now, do you think this is more like a PR thing or parang panakipbutas para may masagot yung gobyerno na, hindi, may ginagawa kami, ito yung ginagawa namin?
Yeah, alam mo, again, we have to start from the premise, things are so bad for so many. Yung targeting, it's a code word for magtipid tayo. And it's not only a code word for magtipid tayo, it's a code word for magtipid tayo by making it so difficult to actually get the ayuda. So that's actually a way to say na, okay, ang dami try to sort of dig up the paperwork, mahaba yung pila, disincentivizing. It's actually designed to make it difficult for people to get support. Sa amin, we turn the argument around on its head. Yung argument na mag-target para makapagtipid, this is not the time to be talking about that. We're looking at least 2 to 3 million more poor Filipino families without government support. Our reference point is what happened after the oil price spikes in 2022 with the Russia attack on Ukraine. We're looking at 2 to 3 million needing help right now. Guaranteed, we're seeing over 2 million transport workers needing help. Kung mag-target pa, una, pinapatagal mo yung suporta sa kanila. Secondly, pinapahirapan mo na makuha yung suporta na yan. Thirdly, you're actually revealing that tinitipid mo yung mga mahihirap. And I think that's the wrong way to go about things. We are genuinely in a predictable state of calamity. It's a predictable state of emergency. Hindi to bagyo na you don't know kung ano yung bigwas sa atin. The numbers are there to show there will be 2 to 3 million more poor Filipinos. What is the government doing to help not just the 2 to 3 million additional poor Filipinos to come from the domino effect of high prices? What about all the transport groups right now na super hirap na sila from just the last 3 weeks of oil price hikes?
All right, well, Sonny, let's look at things at a more macro perspective. Tensions in the Middle East are showing no signs of letting up. And at the rate things are going, what do you see as the end game of this crisis is, how high could oil prices go up? And aside from steep prices, how real and serious is the threat as well of lack of supply?
I don't think anyone can say where the prices will go. I don't think also anyone can say how long the crisis will last. But again, as a matter of policy, you don't need to know certainty about those figures. You only need to know what is the minimum that needs to be done. Right now, using a baseline lang, a benchmark scenario, what happened in 2022, when oil prices hit about $110, $115 per barrel for a few months, over 3 months, by about June, mid-year, they went back down to 80, yung previous price. But with just that short spike, just to $110, $120, and over a short period of time, maybe 3 to 4 months, inflation in the Philippines doubled from 3% to 6%. Even when prices started moderating to $80 to $90 per barrel, after a year, inflation almost tripled to 9%, well, to 8.7%. So para sa amin, using that as a benchmark, what we're looking at right now, one, inflation increasing to at least 5% in the next 3 months. Inflation possibly tripling to maybe 7 or 8% by the start of next year. We're seeing 2 to 3 million more poor Filipino families. And we will see much slower growth. We're kind of guesstimating about 4% or lower now. Why? Because 73% of the economy's consumption. If you have a doubling, tripling of inflation, you're choking household consumption, you're choking output with all the multiplier effects for economic growth. And I think if you look at trends in household consumption, they're the closest tracker, they're the indicator most closely tracking the headline economic growth. So guaranteed, we're probably seeing much lower growth, 4% or less, even just with where we are right now. Even worse, I think, if things drag on.
You're also recommending a subsidy or some help for producers. Explain that to us.
Well, of course, I think transport workers should be considered producers. That's why also there's a lot of pressure for the fare hike, is because they're the most highly exposed to fuel price shocks. So I think the subsidies being given right now, 5,000 is too small. We should be looking at least 6, possibly 10,000 per tranche of the
Not
problem.
just one
we're
tranche.
seeing.
Yeah.
Not just one tranche. Second wave of producers, I think fisher folk, also fuel intensive, and farmers. In general, much less fuel intensive but also dependent. That's quite important because if fisher folk and farmers don't get enough subsidy, they'll start, mapapalaot sila less. Farmers might actually stop farming, and they'll be actually cutting into supply, which we already have a cost push inflationary pressure right now. If you also add a supply diminution, that's going to make prices rise up even more, affecting down the line, not just them for their livelihoods, but also affecting the poor consumers. So para sa amin, first wave of support should be to the rural sector.
Right. Agriculture Secretary Kiko Chu Laurel said they will be given, but mas mababa pa yata sa 5,000.
May 3,000, may 5,000.
Oh my God! Alam mo, that was so weird. Parang proud na proud pa sila to say na, we're drawing from the President's 10 to 12 billion Presidential Assistance Fund. 26,000 farmers given 3,000 pesos. 26,000 fisher folk given 3,000 pesos. There are 1.3 million fisher folk. There are 9 million farmers. Rice farmers lamang, about 2.4 to 2.7 million. So parang, it sounds like a lot, 3,000, 26,000, pero the numbers being thrown at us na walang context of how many are in need. At yun is so frustrating. Yung pinagmamalaki nilang ayuda, hindi para sa lahat na nangangailangan, hindi sapat sa kailangan nila, tapos super short-term lamang. And that's so odd because the problem is so big. Tapos sasabihin pa ng Pangulo, yeah, things are normal, don't hoard, don't panic, don't be a fear-mongerer. Well, tell that to the transport groups ngayon na super mongered na ang fear sa kanila.
All right. Well, we thank you for your insights. Sunny Africa of Ibon Foundation.
Now in other news, the House Committee on Justice has declared the third and fourth impeachment complaints against Vice President Sara Duterte sufficient in grounds. The panel said the VP's answer ad cautelam failed to adequately address the allegations against her. That covers the alleged misuse of 612.5 million pesos in confidential funds, as well as alleged threats against President Marcos and his family. Representatives Laila de Lima and Antonio Tino found Duterte's answer lacking. For House Justice Committee Chair Jervil Luistro, the Vice President missed the opportunity to substantially address the allegations against her. Luistro insisted that due process was observed despite the VP's complaint on the contrary. The panel will now move to the hearing proper starting March 25, with succeeding dates set on April 14, 22, and 29.
And we are pausing for another quick breather, but right after that, Senator Bato de la Rosa is facing an ethics case for his prolonged absence. But one of his colleagues says that complaint may not stick at all. The big story will be right back. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us here on The Big Story. The Commission on Elections has terminated its probe into Senator Rodante Marcoleta over alleged election violations. Marcoleta was earlier accused of failing to fully disclose donors in his 2025 May election SOSE, or Statement of Contributions and Expenditures. The COMELEC
names of which, though I have seen because of the submissions of the donor's tax return, I would like to hold mentioning because we are still to refer it to our legal department for.
But sir, it's in the decision
because-
already. It's Mike Defensor and Espiritu and Viray. It's in the decision.
Okay, your words, not mine. So basically, alleged. If you ask me, the repeal of Section 262 of the Omnibus Election Code by Republic Act 7166 did not include Section 99, which mentions the liability of the donors. So Section 99 remained in Section 262. That is why we opted to endorse the disposition of our PFAD office to the law department to study cases that can be filed against the donors.
Now, another news, an ethics complaint filed against Senator Bato de la Rosa over his continued absence from the Senate may be dismissed unless current rules are amended. Senate Ethics Committee Chair J.V. Ejercito said the case cannot move forward without clear provisions in the rules, particularly on the no work, no pay policy. He stressed this is not about protecting De La Rosa, but about gaps in existing Senate rules which do not clearly cover prolonged absences. There are calls to withhold De La Rosa's salary for being absent in the Senate for more than 4 months. Meanwhile, Ejercito said the number of ethics complaints before the committee has risen from 6 to 9 involving several senators. Reports earlier identified some of those facing complaints, including De La Rosa, Cheese Escudero, Risa Ontiveros, and Ejercito himself. In the next meeting, the committee will determine whether these complaints are sufficient in form and substance.
And before we say goodbye, we take you up north, where the phrase "start 'em young" takes on a whole new meaning. In Ilocos, a 6-year-old is learning the traditional craft of handloom weaving. Mobile journalist Daniel Dayao with the story.
At just 6 years old, a child from Ilocos learns handloom weaving, drawing admirations while raising some concerns online. In the video, Honey practices weaving tradition. As she learns the craft, questions arise on how young learners are introduced to traditional practices.
Hindi naman po pinipilit. Talagang interesado lang po siya sa para matuto po dito sa pag-aaral. Parang ginagawa lang po niya na libangan po. Pag may time na uuwi galing school po, inuupuan niya po. Minutes lang po, ganun po. Nag-enjoy naman.
According to her guardian, Honey weaves out of interest, spending short moments at the loom after school. But as she continues to learn, experts highlight the importance of safeguarding child welfare.
Mahalaga yan kasi lagi nating sinasabi that we should promote and protect the rights of the child. Locally, we also have national laws and policies. We also have Republic Act 9231 or the act providing for the elimination of the worst form of child labor and affording stronger protection for the working child.
Meanwhile, owner of the shop clarifies Honey is not employed but simply learning the craft.
Hindi siya consider na part-time, ma'am, kasi parang libangan lang naman. Natututo lang siya. Siyempre, pag nakarami, di kahit paano, pambili ng mga merienda lang niya, ganun. Doon sa sister niya kasi, yun yung parang guardian niya. Sa kanya kasi yun, parang pag may mga time lang, umuupo siya para nagiging libangan lang niya eh. Yung siyempre bata, sinasabihan pa rin na huwag kasi pag nasira nga naman, ayusin. Pero marunong naman.
And for Ilocano weavers, weaving remains a key part of both livelihood and culture.
Mahalaga siguro, ma'am, in the sense na bata pa lang is parang natututo na sila para kahit paano, ma'am, in the future hindi yun mamamatay yung weaving industry dito sa Ilocos. Yung weaving kasi create jobs eh. So hindi lang yung nakabili ka ng gawang Pinoy, kundi nakatulong ka din sa mga tao behind the finished products.
In the end, experts remind while traditions live on, the best interest of the child must always come first.
So basta ang mahalaga doon is that yung ginagawa niya is for a limited period only, and that it does not run in conflict with her school activities, with her leisure time, and of course, with her time of rest. Kasi parang nakikita ko naman that, di ba, tinuturuan siya so that the culture, the practice of loom weaving will be passed on to her generation, which is actually a good practice. Kasi naipagpapatuloy yung indigenous practice noong kanya pong community. And that helps in the overall development of the child.
Kapatid Mobile Journal, Daniel Dayaw, we are One News.
And that's it for the big story this midweek. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back here tomorrow at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.
I'm just so concerned why the community had to be on the defensive.
Exactly.
Right?
It was a hobby. We used to encourage that.
Exactly. So, anyway, let's keep on encouraging the children to continue the traditions that were, prevalent during their forebears' time. Kung hindi, mamamatay na.
Correct. And may I add, that has nothing to do with the gadget.
Yeah.
Exactly! Hay nako. Okay, kapatid, we are One News all sides, all the time. Have a good night.